What's going on, guys? I am ready to finally do something with these villagers that have just been camping over here since I originally moved them from the village that's on the other side of the hill. It's always been my plan for this little mini series to kind of do a lot of villager related stuff. I want to build a big villager trading hall. I want to get some armors and weaponsmiths so I can get all my diamond gear through villagers rather than having to mine for diamonds. And I'm ready to start doing that. I've got 10 villagers over here. I needed to do that so I could get some cats, so I could get some string, so I could make some scaffolding. And before we can really get started with a big villager trading hall, we need a villager breeder so that we can make all the villagers that we want. However, in keeping with my challenges to not have any sort of automatic farms, I feel like just throwing in a couple of farmer villagers in a crop farm where they can harvest all the carrots or potatoes or whatever they want and use those to breed and just make more villagers. I kind of feel like that is an automatic farm. It's something that runs on its own, doesn't require any interaction from you other than ensuring that there's enough beds for them to breed. So I'm gonna try to challenge myself to come up with a different type of villager breeder today. And all of this villager stuff, I'm going to do it out here over the water. I've got this beautiful lake, which I keep calling a lake. Technically it's an ocean biome, but it's such a small ocean biome and it's surrounded by land. To me, that's a lake. And so I'm gonna build this thing out here in the water, but not just on the water. I'm gonna build it up in the air. I've marked out the corners of a chunk. It's not really super important that this thing be chunk aligned, but I wanted it to be 16 blocks big anyway, so I figured, well, let's just go ahead and make it chunk aligned. So I went ahead and marked out the corners of a chunk. So what I'm going to do is I want this entire chunk to be the inside of this build, which means what I'm going to be using for supports actually needs to be one block outside. So this is going to be the block that we start on. So I said supports. I said that this thing's going to be up in the air. What is the plan here? What are we going to be building out here in the water? Well, I want to build some giant trees. I want this thing to be held up by some giant trees. And I don't mean giant oak trees. I don't mean some jungle trees, which I think are the tallest trees in the game. I mean giant trees, like super giant. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get some jungle saplings. We'll plant these to grow one of the giant jungle trees. Hopefully this doesn't take too much bone meal because I've only got 64. Perfect. That's beautiful. And then I'm going to put a block right there. I'm going to go get my scaffolding that I forgot. And look at that. Just that one tree by itself is already kind of gorgeous. So we'll come back over here. Eventually, I want to have a better way to get up and down on this thing than just climbing scaffolding. But for now, scaffolding is the easy way up and down. I'm going to do a little bit of trimming. Like for some reason, there is a random leaf just kind of sticking out there. I'll remove that. And then I need to get up into the top of this thing. And we're going to remove this whole canopy. So the whole top of this tree, all the leaves, we're going to remove that. I am going to leave the little branches that stick out with their mini canopies. Otherwise, this thing would just be like a super tall, super thin tree trunk. I'm using an iron hoe for this because the hoe is the tool of choice to break leaves and it just goes much, much faster. Unfortunately, since I don't have any enchantments, it's going to break very, very easily. Like, that was almost a brand new hoe and it's almost destroyed from a single tree. So I'm probably going to go through a lot of these. So I'm going to break this one random block that's sitting on top there. And then we're going to do it again. I'm going to plant another jungle tree on top of this jungle tree. There we go. That's actually a really small giant jungle tree. That's weird. And then I'm going to replace this dirt that I used to grow it with some actual jungle wood, which I only had one jungle wood. I need to go get some jungle wood, guys. Yeah, the nice thing about using a hoe or even just your bare hands to break the leaves rather than using shears to cut them and actually collect the leaves is you're going to get more jungle saplings. And since I'm planting a bunch of jungle trees, I need all the saplings I can get right now. So this is actually okay that I'm having to go back to my base for more supplies because it gives me a chance to look at this thing each time. So that is a jungle tree that is 2 jungle trees tall. I think I'm going to go up 3. I want to get somewhere around 100 blocks off the ground, or off the water in this case. just because that's how far away villagers can link to beds. And villagers, oh man, they're such a pain. They're such a pain, especially in Bedrock, because they can, in Java Edition, like supposedly they can only link to things that they can pathfind to, but in Bedrock Edition, they're just like, oh, there's a bed like way over there that I can't reach. Sure, that's my bed. So I want to get this way up high. That's why I'm building it out in the water, away from everything else. And yeah, we're already at 87. So I think 3 trees tall will be plenty. Wait, I say we're at 87, but the water's not at 0. What's the water at? Water's at 62. Okay, so 87 is actually only like 25 blocks off the ground. I think 100 blocks off the ground is maybe a stretch. And we could do it. It's just going to maybe look kind of ridiculous to have these jungle trees that are 100 blocks tall sticking up out of the water. So my hoe did break, and in the interest of just kind of moving things along, I did sort of leave that second canopy. I kind of broke it around the tree trunk and just left the rest of it to decay on its own. So that little ring of leaves up there, ignore that. It's going to go away all by itself. So that is 3 jungle trees tall, and that actually looks amazing. I think I'm going to go 4. I'm going to go for a 4th. That's not quite as tall as I wanted. I think both the second and third trees that I planted, they weren't really super tall, and I don't know why. It's just random. It's Minecraft. Everything comes out differently every time you do it. So I'm going to go at 4. Because like I said, I want these things to be huge. I want them to be giant. I want them to be super tall. All right, so that is 4 trees. I think that's good. I think that's good. I like it. I actually wish the canopy was a little bit bigger on the top, just because now it's like super tall, super narrow, and just this little bitty canopy on the top. But that's okay. You know, worst case, maybe we can do a little roof of leaves like we did for our starter home over there once we've got all 4 trees in. But I think that's a good height. Yeah, I can live with that. So 4 trees is what I'm shooting for. I'm going to do the other 3 corners now, and we'll see how it looks when it's done. All right, got all 4 trees fully grown. That was a lot of work just because it involved a lot of up and down and planting saplings and bone mealing them and clearing leaves and waiting for things to decay. But we finally got them all in and it looks great. I'm really happy with that height. I'm looking forward to getting the villager trading hall put in, but today's episode is really about the villager breeder. So it occurred to me as I was building this that our breeder actually needs to be outside the villager trading hall because villagers need an extra bed to breed. And so if you've got your breeders inside the villager trading hall, then you're going to have like tons and tons and tons of beds. And that's not really what I want to do. So rather than like building this thing somewhere else, I want to build it above the villager trading hall, which means it's going to be floating like 100 blocks above the trees, just because it's going to make it a lot easier to get the villagers that get bred up from this villager breeder into the villager trading hall. So that presents an interesting logistical issue, because how are we going to get these 2 villagers way up there, like 160 blocks above where we're at now, because we need to get them up to where the villager trading hall is going to be, which is kind of at the top of this thing, but then another 100 blocks above that. Well, I found out this nifty little trick, just kind of messing around in a creative world. First, I'm going to get this boat onto dry land. So the boat, for this trick to work, the boat has to start out on ground. It cannot be in the water. I don't know why. I guess when it's in the water, it's in a different state. When it's on the ground, it's not floating. And so this will work. So just somewhere around the center of this thing, it's not the exact middle, I don't care, just somewhere around the middle, I'm going to start nerd pulling. And while holding the lead, we're actually going to just drag the boat up with us. And hopefully, the lead doesn't break at any point during this process. So I'm doing this nerd pull with dirt initially, just to get up to where the top of the villager breeder is eventually going to be, which is probably going to be somewhere around here. Y120 is a nice good round number. And then I'm going to go out 1, and this is where I will start nerd pulling with scaffolding. This scaffolding will probably end up being like a permanent way up and down. Hopefully they don't get stuck underneath that little ledge there. But yeah, the scaffolding will probably end up being, oh no, don't do that, don't do that. Okay, yeah, they got stuck under the dirt and then they weren't following me anymore. Okay, so like I was saying, the scaffolding's probably going to be how I permanently get up and down in this villager trading, this villager breeder. And the reason I'm starting it up so high is just because right now I don't think I have enough scaffolding to start from the ground and go all the way up. But also, you know, if you break the bottom piece of scaffolding, it all falls. And I would hate for, 200 blocks of scaffolding to fall to the ground because I accidentally break one. All right, so here we are at 220. We're 100 blocks above where we started with the scaffolding. So this is about where I want to build this villager breeder. Unfortunately, the villagers are kind of in the way. So I'm going to build a little platform of dirt. And this dirt is hopefully going to be where we can land the villagers in their boat. So I'll keep going up with the scaffolding a little bit more. Hopefully we can get them up and over, just so we can get them off the scaffolding. Come on, you guys. There we go. Okay, so that was... I won't say easy. I was going to say that was really easy. It wasn't easy. It was a little complicated. Just they kept bouncing around and they got stuck on the scaffolding and I couldn't place more scaffolding because they were there. But it was a whole lot easier than building like a minecart system or something to try to transport them up here. Now I need to be really careful because I can push this boat around up here and I don't want to push it off the ledge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start building the villager breeder. And I'm going to build this most of this out of wool. So I'm going to come out this way a little bit, maybe 5 blocks or so. And we're going to create this little runway or, I don't know, a little path kind of going this way a little bit. And we're going to have some walls on either side of it like this. And I forgot the rest of my supplies. I've got a bunch of other materials that I want to build this thing out of that are all the way down there. So I guess I am going to need to get some more scaffolding. Yep. Okay, I'll be right back. Alright, so I've built this thing out a little bit more. So now I'm going to place a lead on the boat again and try to drag it to the back of this thing, which is going to be a little bit tough because it's only 2 blocks wide. We got to get it just perfectly in there. So I built myself a little ledge that I can kind of sneak out on and just pull this thing all the way back. And then I'm going to do some glass. Oh, that's really nice. I think this is this is the first glass I've placed in this particular RTX world. That's really cool. In fact, I don't think I've placed glass in an RTX world. I have turned on RTX in a world that already had glass in it, but I haven't placed it before. It looks really nice. So I shouldn't place glass here and here. We're going to do something else in those 2 places. I had to kind of scoot them away from the back wall a little bit. I couldn't place the glass because their big heads were in the way. So I'm going to do 2 droppers in the back. And let's see. Yeah, we'll do one facing in that way and one facing in that way. So this is how we are going to feed them. Now we need to get this boat turned horizontally because it's really important that each of them be in front of one of these droppers. So let me put some dirt here and here. Then hopefully I can break this boat. All right, so I got these guys turned sideways. I went ahead and put in 2 beds so that they would bind to those. I also put in 2 workstations just so that they would already be bound to something. I am fairly confident, very, very, very sure that the villager trading hall will be farther away than they can bind to, but I just wanted to rule that out as a possibility. I also threw in this redstone clock, and it's just your classic redstone clock. You flick the lever, it just ticks away, and this is connected to these 2 droppers. So here's how this farm is going to work. We're going to take some food, we're going to jump up top here, and we're going to put this food in the droppers. We'll put half on one side and half on the other. And then we will flick the lever and it will drop the food out onto the farmers. This is, in my opinion, this is a much easier way to feed the villagers than just throwing the food out and having them pick it up because they're in a boat. Because they're in a boat, they're so close together, it's very difficult to control who picks up the food if you just throw it on the ground. And while I was kind of prototyping some farmer, villager, breeder type builds, I found that if one of them got all the food, yes, he would throw the food onto the ground for the other one to pick up, but then he would pick it up because they're so close together. And so it was like impossible for both villagers to get the food that they need to breed. But with the droppers here, they just like shoot the food into the villager's face, and it guarantees that each of them is going to pick it up. So last thing to do before we turn this on is I need to kind of finish up this side of it. So these are the extra beds that will allow the breeders to breed, but we don't want them to be connected to the same platform up here. So what I'm going to do is I've got some trap doors, and I'm going to break all this dirt, and I'm going to put trap doors there and there, and then we're going to open these trap doors. So what's going to happen is the villagers will see this as solid ground, something that they think they can walk over. But newsflash, they can't. So what's going to happen is when the villagers breed, the babies will bind to these beds. Eventually, they'll try to make their way over here and they'll fall. And they will fall into the villager breeder that we're going to build below this thing. I'll eventually come back up and do like a column of glass that goes around this thing. Basically create like a chute to make sure that they fall straight down. They don't fall off to the side or anything like that. And then there will be like a whoa. So yeah, that's kind of how that works. So how about we just close these trapdoors until we're actually done with this thing. I'm going to go ahead and put some wool and some glass on either side of this. And this will make sure that the baby villagers don't like wander off to the side, because like I said, we're going to put a chute to make sure that they fall straight down. And so we need to make sure that this whole area is completely enclosed. So open up these trap doors again, and I've got my food in there. Let me go ahead and turn this on and we'll test it. Even though there's nothing for the villagers to drop down into, we'll just kind of sacrifice one to see how this works. So we'll turn this on, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and turn it off. You probably got a little bit more than 12 food, but each villager should have gotten at least 12 food from that. And now we just have to wait for them to decide that they're ready to make a baby. There we go. We got hearts from one of them. There we go. We got hearts from the other one. Hearts from both. Yes. So they both got enough food to breed. And now they are breeding. They are trapped in their boat, so they're not going to go anywhere. The baby, which just popped out, is now free to roam about and will eventually make his way to this bed over here and fall down to his, well, I guess not to his death because there's water down there, but he will eventually fall down into the villager trading hall, which we will build next time. So that's going to wrap this episode up. Thank you all so much for watching. This is a very different villager breeder than I've always built in the past. I always just do some farmer villagers. Oh, here comes the baby. Nope, thought he was going to drop. Yeah, I always just do some farms and farmer villagers, basically just let them breed themselves and grow their own food. But since I'm trying to avoid automatic farms, this is a nice, compact, manual villager farm. And it's a good way to get the villagers that are bred out of the farm so that the breeders can continue breeding new villagers. So you don't have to come up here and like get the villagers after they breed and transport them somewhere else. So it's a nice, compact, easy to build villager farm. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button. And while you're down there, feel free to subscribe so you'll get notified of future episodes as they come out. Thanks y'all, and have a great day.